There's just a portion in the Martin and Angus stand of this capacity crowd here tonight at the Sydney Showground Speedway. As we said earlier in the commentary, they had to close the gates. A full house sign went up, and that's great to see. Certainly race fans warm to the Sydney Showground, even though it is only now once a year, this arena. There's nothing like the atmosphere of a capacity Sydney Showground. We've got a capacity crowd here tonight to watch the Australian Speedcar Grand Prix. And here it is. This is the main event of the night, the 40th running Castrol sponsored Australian Speedcar Grand Prix. And of course, as we've been saying through the commentary, the event, there you see, run over a distance of 25 laps. Over the years been won by some of the all-time greats of not only Australian speed car racing but also American speed car racing. Man on the pole position is Phil Chilton. Outside front row, Johnny Pearson. Inside second row, Ken Radcliffe in the number 54 car. Outside of the second row is Trevor Green, car number 58. Just looking at the other starters there in car 65, Rick Bates, Barry Butterworth. Next row, John Mills also there. George Tapnell in the number 5 car. Michael Meyer now moving up into his starting position. Chilton, Pearson, Radcliffe and Graham, Bates and Green, Mills and Butterworth, Meyer and Tapnell. Kevin Gormley there also, as the pace now starts to quicken, and we have a start in the 40th Australian Speedcar Grand Prix. One running over a wheel there was Ken Radcliffe, and a jumble of cars down into turn number 1 as they sort themselves out through the bullpen's corner, and it's Johnny Pearson leading from Phil Chilton. Rick Bates the next one through as the field streams by Bob Holt, Ian Saville, Terry King and Steve Brady. That's the order there, but it's the American Johnny Pearson out front as Radcliffe gives Rick Bates a nudge there as they come down the main straightaway. There's the defending Australian Speedcar Grand Prix winner, Ian Saville. He certainly has the job to do, well back in the field at this stage and has it all ahead of him. Mark Brown there in car number 2, followed through on the inside there as we cut back now to Phil Chilton, Rick Bates, Ken Radcliffe, Trevor Green and Barry Butterworth, followed by Michael Meyer, Stephen Graham, Kevin Gormley, Mark Brown the next one through. But it's Johnny Pearson well clear, opening up a big lead in the early laps of the 40th Australian Speedcar Grand Prix, sponsored by Castrol, and it's the Californian driver Johnny Pearson, the race leader. There's Barry Butterworth, Mark Brown, Kevin Gormley, Mark Brown in the number 2 car there as we move further up to the top of the field. And here's Phil Chilton running in second spot, Rick Bates, Ken Radcliffe, and down into the pit turn it's Trevor Green following those cars. 54 car, the number 54 car, driven by Ken Radcliffe, right on the tail of Rick Bates, and looking again for a pass on Rick Bates, trying to get through on the inside, and the man that's now forming up what is developing into a freight train. At the head of the freight train is Phil Chilton, and 20 laps remaining in the Australian Speedcar Grand Prix. There's Trevor Green trying to get through on Radcliffe. Radcliffe comes again on the outside as we cut back now once again to Phil Chilton and Rick Bates still in third position. Barry Butterworth there with Michael Meyer right on his tail, and Mark Brown. Down the main straightaway, and now Trevor Green having another look at Ken Radcliffe. Trevor Green in the 58 car, and Phil Chilton, Rick Bates, Ken Radcliffe, Trevor Green, Barry Butterworth, Michael Meyer, Mark Brown, Stephen Graham and Kevin Gormley. That's the top order at the moment as Ken Radcliffe continues to work away on Rick Bates. Certainly some battles all the way through the field there, but the man who's having a trouble-free run at the top of the field is Johnny Pearson, and my word, he's opened up a big advantage in the first 10 laps of the Australian Speedcar Grand Prix, almost stretching that lead now to 1/2 lap. Half a lap lead as Michael Meyer comes up on the inside of Barry Butterworth, and Butterworth holds that position though with the challenge from Michael Meyer. There's Barry Butterworth, Stephen Graham and Kevin Gormley, followed through by Bob Holt as the laps continue to unfold in this 40th running of the Australian Speedcar Grand Prix with 15 laps remaining in the 40th edition of the Grand Prix. Nothing in this race for the minor placings, but of course Johnny Pearson is well and truly gone away from the opposition as we look at 58, car 58, driven by Trevor Green, and now Michael Meyer trying to get through once again on Barry Butterworth, and still this battle for third place in between Rick Bates in the number 65 car, Ken Radcliffe in 54, and Trevor Green now joining in car number 58. Certainly some battles further back in the field, and right back still at the tail, near towards the tail of the field is Ian Saville, and now Trevor Green trying once again to get through on the inside of Ken Radcliffe, moves Radcliffe up track, and Trevor Green moving up one more position in the field, now officially placed fourth on the racetrack. There's Mark Brown getting a little bit sideways, and behind Mark Brown is Barry Butterworth. Barry Butterworth trying hard in the Gordon Nelson car, gets through on the inside of Radcliffe, and trying to get through there was car number 40 driven by Kevin Gormley, but Radcliffe shut the gate. Oh, and Rick Bates in a little bit of bother, and he drops a placing to Trevor Green, and now Michael Meyer coming around the outside of Rick Bates, and Rick Bates dropping back through the field. Michael Meyer now up into, as we look at the positions, in fourth position, but there's Johnny Pearson. Oh, he's well clear. He certainly has no problems at all at the top of the field. Bob Holt there in car number 6, followed by Steve Brady, and further back in the field is Ian Saville. But it's still Johnny Pearson well clear, one trying for a run through there on the inside, but here's the man at the top of the freight train is Phil Chilton, and boy oh boy, Trevor Green not giving him 1 minute's peace as he works away on the inside of Phil Chilton. Trevor Green in third, followed by Michael Meyer there in fourth spot, and here comes Trevor Green once again. Certainly Phil Chilton holding down that low line, and Michael Meyer up on the edge of the grass there trying to get through. Next one through is Rick Bates, followed by Mark Brown, as we watch this enthralling battle unfolding for second, third and fourth in the Australian Speedcar Grand Prix. You can forget Johnny Pearson. He's so far in front now that it doesn't really matter, and I think only a mechanical problem will rob Pearson of a win in the Grand Prix to join a very illustrious list of American drivers that have won this race. But there's still plenty of laps remaining yet. There's Radcliffe, followed through by Gormley. One sideways there was Steve Brady, and John Dark also there, and Ian Saville. And now Trevor Green once again working ever so hard to try and get through on Phil Chilton, but Phil Chilton, certainly nothing to be taken away from the performance by Phil Chilton. He's resisting all challenges at this stage and still holds down second placing. There's Phil Chilton in the number 25 car, followed by Trevor Green from South Australia, and Michael Meyer through, as now Johnny Pearson coming up to lap some of the tail end cars as 5 laps remaining. Looks about 5 laps remaining now in the Australian Speedcar Grand Prix, and Johnny Pearson led from the first lap, and now coming up in actual fact to try and put a lap on Ian Saville, the defending Australian Speedcar Grand Prix winner. As we cut to the back straight away, Mark Brown there, as we now move up to Trevor Green in 58, followed by Michael Meyer. Barry Butterworth also there, John Mills in car 11. There's Barry Butterworth driving the Gordon Nelson owned Chevy 2 car. But it's still Phil Chilton in second, Trevor Green third, Michael Meyer is fourth, followed in turn by Rick Bates. And the next one through, Mark Brown, Barry Butterworth and Kevin Gormley, followed by Ken Radcliffe, King, and that's the top order. But here's Phil Chilton. Boy oh boy, he certainly had to work hard in this race. Trevor Green not giving him any chance at all to get clear. Trevor Green pushing hard all the way. Michael Meyer and Rick Bates there also. Mark Brown, Barry Butterworth and Kevin Gormley. But Johnny Pearson, a comfortable drive out in front as Mark Brown tries desperately, tries ever so hard. Only a one-line racetrack here at the Sydney Showground tonight, or really 2 lines, the pole line and the infield, I guess you could say. But certainly nothing up top to offer on this racetrack tonight. virtually a pole line, virtually a freight train, as Phil Chilton leads the freight train in second position with 1 lap remaining for Johnny Pearson. There he is in the number 69 car. That'll give you some indication how far clear he is of Phil Chilton in second position. Johnny Pearson, you can put away the glasses, will go on and win the 40th Castrol Australian Speedcar Grand Prix, going down to take the checkered flag and the winner of the 1990 Australian Speedcar Grand Prix, as this enthralling dice for the minor placing still continues. But I think you'll find Phil Chilton will last long enough to take second, and the next one through will be Trevor Green as they cross the finish line. Yes, Chilton second, Green third, followed across the line by Michael Meyer. Next one through was Rick Bates, Mark Brown, Barry Butterworth, followed by Kevin Gormley, Ken Radcliffe, and Terry King was the next one through there. So that's how it's been run and won, the 40th edition, the 1990 running of the Australian Speedcar Grand Prix. Our congratulations go to Californian Johnny Pearson. There he is, the man who's put it all together on the night, driving the local Gary Crew Nissan-powered midget, and being congratulated there by all and sundry as Phil Chilton pulls up beside him in preparation for the trophy presentations. And the third man through there on the line now is Trevor Green, the very enterprising, and certainly Johnny Pearson is delighted with his performance. A late starter in the Grand Prix. When he heard about the Sydney Showground running this very special meeting, he certainly made sure that he was going to be a part of it, and boy oh boy, hasn't it turned out great for Johnny Pearson, the winner of the 1990 Australian Speedcar Grand Prix. And there's the man who has taken out the title. The trophy presentation time now at the Sydney Showground Speedway. And the top three, Johnny Pearson first, Phil Chilton second, and coming in third was Trevor Green. The top three in the Australian Speedcar Grand Prix for 1990. Certainly Trevor Green not disgraced with his very solid third placing there, as we look at the trophy presentation now. And just rounding out the finishing order, after Trevor Green it was Michael Meyer, Rick Bates, Mark Brown, Barry Butterworth, Kevin Gormley, Ken Radcliffe, Terry King, Joe Ferrugia and Bob Holt. That was the finishing order for the 40th edition of the Australian Speedcar Grand Prix.